Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the campus, Arizona State University, on Blaze Radio. And now, it's time. Here's Weston DeWitt.
Yeah. Welcome to the latest edition of the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay here on Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. It is October 15th, 2017. Thank you for starting your Monday off on a high note here with us. Harley Yearout, social media king, is in the house today. Harley Yearout, producer, co-host. How you doing today, man? You doing good?
Eliav Gabay, thank you.
Did I miss the name?
You called me Harley.
I did.
But thank you. I wish I was that good looking.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this one. So, oh my gosh, I'm gonna laugh at myself so hard. Okay, Harley, Eliav, how you did it again? Okay.
All right. It's a great start to the week, peeps.
3, 2, 1. Eliav, how are you today, man? You doing well?
I'm doing well, Troy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry, Seth. Okay. We got a lot of stuff to get into today. We're going to talk about the NFL, tons of stuff to get into there. MLB Postseason is in full swing.
Heating
Championship Series is... Well, there's some good baseball going on right now between the Astros and the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Cubs. And also... we got a little something to talk about with U.S. soccer. They're in the news because they missed the qualifier for the World Cup, and the world over is quite disappointed about that, Eliav. And we're going to hit on that. We're going to talk about ASU basketball because the season is coming up, and Mill Madness was over the weekend. You were there.
So much fun.
And I got a little something to say about the Arizona Coyotes. We'll get to that a little bit later. But the first order of
Hide
business...
your children.
Also, yes. Also, the NBA season starts tomorrow, and a full-fledged preview is coming our way.
Yes, we're back.
Yes, we got
basketball.
The NBA season is back. We will get into that next segment. Troy Tauscher is going to join the show, and he will discuss all things NBA with us. But the first order of business is to talk about Arizona State football.
Oh, they played over the weekend. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, they did pretty well, actually, too, by the way.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Was it a fun game?
It was just sort of fun.
Just kind of historic.
Yeah, we kind of sat in the press box. We weren't really all that excited about it and everything, but... for those who didn't know, Arizona State upset the University of Washington. Yes, they were the number 5 ranked team in the country. Yes, Jake Browning was a Heisman candidate. Yes, Chris Peterson was the head coach of this team, and he always seems to have his crew ready. But for some inexplicable reason, his crew didn't come ready to play on Saturday, and Arizona State won 13-7. My takeaways from this game, Eliav, man, the defense for Arizona State was rock solid, and they were making great tackles at every open field tackles. And I was really, really impressed with the way the defensive linemen were getting to the quarterback. And even when they weren't blitzing, they just seemed to be getting to Jake Browning all the time. And Washington's offensive line, I don't know what happened with them. I don't know what happened with Jake Browning. He only threw for 139 yards. Look, Pedestrian was on suicide watch for half the night, and he had a QBR of 30. And not to mention Gaskin, stud running back, 67 yards. Pettis, their star receiver, 56 yards. Those guys were nowhere to be found. Kudos completely every way, shape, and form to Arizona State. They played a hell of a ball game, and everybody here today, at least at Arizona State, and for this week, you got to be proud to be a Sun Devil, man.
No, absolutely. When it comes to that D-line and the defense in general, linebackers, DJ Calhoun, Christian Sam, they went to work. Tayshawn Smallwood was on a mission. They got to the quarterback, got to Browning 5 times, 5 sacks for a loss of 45 yards.
And I know you wanted to talk about the sacks. That was impressive.
It was huge. Like you said, in different words, he really, Browning was watching his back, and they were just chasing after him. He had to be so creative. And also on the other end, as far as offense goes, man, Manny Wilkins and that whole set, the O-line did so well. The line of scrimmage was dominated by ASU, really. And Manny, while he still had to be creative, he had some more time to be comfortable.
That's something that we've been talking about for all season, Eliav, was he ain't getting any protection.
Right.
He's the one on suicide watch. He's the one who's running around. He's about to break both legs if he wasn't going to get any protection. But this guy, he was getting protection all day. And I've been saying it for months now. When Manny Wilkins is solid and firm in the pocket, as a pocket passer, he can fling that football. And yeah, they only put up 13 points. I get it. Yeah, just 245 yards isn't the most eye-popping on the stat sheet. But the impact that he had and the way he led, that's what I'm most impressed with Manny Wilkins, is his leadership. To overcome what he's come in his life, to get to this point and now be the starting quarterback of this team when Todd Graham is being talked about every single day, it seems like that his job is in jeopardy. To see Manny Wilkins go out there and ball like he did, that was something special, man.
Absolutely. And when it comes to Manny Wilkins, we didn't just see him be a pocket passer. We saw the athleticism again come alive with another hurdle, which is always fun to see.
That was
and
crazy.
Best believe that was all over his social media. But yeah, I mean, the mentality of this team, they just came out hungry. They came out with the bye week's preparation. They clearly did their homework. Phil Bennett, I mean, wow. Yeah. Kudos to you. You did your work. The game plan was executed perfectly, and the Huskies didn't know what hit them.
No, absolutely
Straight
not.
up did not know what was coming. And I don't think anyone else did. But I mean, when you're the team out there and you really get smacked like that, that's a wake-up call. But we can all agree now that the Pac-12 is most likely not going to be represented in the college football playoff anymore.
And I was talking to Hartley after the game. We were down on the field. One thing that he mentioned, he said that it just seemed like Washington didn't have the ball that much. The time of possession was 25-34 in favor of Arizona State. The time possession that Arizona State had in this game, it was superb. They were 3 for 3 on fourth down, by the way. That gutsy fourth down play at the end of the game where he connected with French Love, it looked like the ball was going through both receivers' hands and it ended up in the hands of French Love.
Huge.
I mean, we were up in the press box our hearts just went up completely.
Because I thought I didn't even see French Love in the play, and all of a sudden he just dives for it and saves the entire game. You know, because then you have Jake Browning with some time on the clock about to turn it around and go the other way.
Yeah. And Arizona State will take on Utah next week. And that's going to be another really interesting game, going to Utah.
Seeing how the momentum goes on.
And Utah's they got a stout defense out there. Really excited to see that game. You guys can catch the game on Blaze Radio Online as Braden Bell and Joe McClatchy will be calling the game.
That's right. Yep. Killian McClatchy will be there. I'll be running the pregame and postgame. And the halftime, and from this booth right over here. But another thing I want to say, and just to wrap up this ASU Washington game, Demario Richard told me after the game, he said, when you're a kid, these are the kind of things you dream for. Mm-hmm. You know, you dream about moments like these. And, man, there it goes right there. That's one of the biggest wins in program history, no question.
It's program defining, and very happy for
Todd Graham now.
Yes, we just said Todd Graham. We're very happy for Todd Graham, and he's a really nice guy. And I think he seems to he's just under so much heat. It was so great to see him at the press conference so relieved. It just seemed like there was this burden off his shoulder.
Well, I wouldn't be too relieved just yet. I mean, he's got to show some consistency. Yeah. You can beat Oregon. You can beat UW. But when you end up losing to San Diego State and Stanford and losing those games, I mean, the inconsistency is just ridiculous. If you want to keep your job coming next season, you have to show that you can keep up this kind of play. Maybe not the kind of play against Washington every single night. Yeah. But a decent team every night, which is not what we see. No. So, yes, you could be a little bit relieved. He definitely is not going to get fired during the season. No. And people probably think he won't get fired until, not get that contract for next year. But honestly, I don't know yet. I just don't know yet. You got to show some consistency.
Great job on that Demario Richard interview, by the way, man.
Thank you.
That very
That's Blaze Sports. Check it out on the YouTube.
Yeah, very, very good interview. Well done, Eliav. Go check out the director's cut, too. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Syracuse upset Clemson on Friday, 27-24. Down goes the number 2 team in the country. Bryant leaves the game with an injury, 116 yards. Cooper comes in, 88 yards. But I got to tell you, man, this kid, Dungy, 278 yards for 3 touchdowns, leading Syracuse, just smash mouth football, left and right played by the Orange. Congratulations to Syracuse. They totally deserve this win.
Yeah, like you said, smash mouth football. That's the only way they're going to win this game.
Yeah.
You got to grind out. That's the only way upsets happen. When you just grind out harder than the other team that doesn't expect it to happen. And then when you look at the score, I remember I was at dinner with the Bell family. Shout out Braden.
Hi, Braden.
Trent. How you guys doing? But when we looked over to the screen and you see the game was actually pretty close going to the fourth, you're like, oh, well, Clemson will still pull it out, whatever. By the end of the game, Syracuse is up and Clemson doesn't capitalize. You're just like, wait, what? That's just shocking. I mean, ASU was shocking, but also Syracuse just taking down number 2 Clemson, a team that a lot of people thought were unbeatable.
Me too. I was one of those.
I was one of those too. Yeah. I mean, I have Clemson winning again this year preseason. But wow.
When we look at this game, Clemson was 2 for 11 on third down. And Clemson was outgained in yardage 440 to 317. That's something that Clemson, I mean, they're usually lockdown money on third down because Dabo Swinney, that kind of coaching mentality that he has, and Bryant, the quarterback who appears to have had suffered a concussion. We hope that he's okay because he's a solid quarterback for that team. Hard shoes to fill, replacing Deshaun Watson. But let's look at the schedule for Clemson real quick. They dropped to number 7, by the way. They got Georgia Tech next week, then NC State, Florida State, and can't pronounce this school name, the Chelena, something like that, South Carolina. And that's the rest of their schedule. Those are all winnable games. Clemson should not lose another game this season. They should be just fine, in my opinion.
Well, we would have said that before this week when they play Syracuse as well.
That's what.
And then they lost. So
as soon as I just said that, I thought, wait a minute, 3 top 10 schools just got upset this week. I'm like, anything's possible at this point. You can't predict anything in college football. You can't.
And moving on, Washington State Cougars.
Wow.
Losing number 8. Wow. 2 loss, 5 loss, and 8 loss. My Lord. To Cal. The Cal Bears getting it done now. Luke Falk just had himself an awful day.
Yeah.
Had himself an awful day. 5 interceptions. My Lord.
11 QBR.
That's just what you got to know right there. But ultimately, another upset, another grinded out win. I mean, these games are won on the defensive end, straight up. All these games, I think they're primarily won on the defensive end.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in Cal's case, the offense also went off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
365 total yards of offense for Cal in that game. And Bowers, their quarterback, Bowers came in and balled. 259 yards, a touchdown, just a QBR of 58. But you could tell his leadership in this game was on full display, and you knew, the wildfires in California, and it was talks about canceling the game and everything because of the air and just the air in general. It was really good to see California, who's a 3-3 ball club, really, really inconsistent throughout the whole year for the last few years. Actually, just inconsistently. They lost Davis Webb, but it was good to see California come out there and just. They dominated. They did not play they played near flawless football. Great to see California get a big win like this. 37 points against a Mike Leach coached team. Wow.
And when you see the AP top 25 poll right now, you got the new top 5 are completely new. You got, well, not everybody, but a lot of changes.
It's a shift.
Alabama number 1, Penn State moving up to number 2, Georgia number 3, TCU number 4, and Wisconsin slipping into that 5th spot. Now, Ohio State fans might be mad with the 6th spot, but
I can understand that.
And then now Clemson drops down to 7.
That's appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say too much about this team. I mean, they're still ridiculous. They're still very good.
They're still favorites.
And I still think they have a chance to make the college football playoff.
Me too. No questions asked.
While Washington, there were so many question marks already with them before this ASU game, which I honestly thought they were still going to go back to college football playoff. Not anymore.
No. And USC's in there at number 11, by the way, and they snuck out a victory over Utah.
Barely.
And USC's going to come here to Arizona State next weekend, and yours truly will be on the call for that game. So make sure you guys listen to that. And the game just was announced, 7:45 p.m. on ESPN. Make sure you guys go check it out. Transitioning to the pros, the Arizona Cardinals, 38-33. They beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, this game, let's just put it plain and simple, guys. Adrian Peterson, 134 yards. Look, this guy was traded to the Cardinals in the middle of last week from the New Orleans Saints. It just didn't look like it was working out. Listen to this, guys. In 3 games with the New Orleans Saints, Adrian Peterson had 27 touches, 81 yards, and then on Sunday yesterday, 26 carries for 134 yards in 1 game with the Cardinals against that stout Tampa Bay defense. You kidding me?
Yeah, I know that D-line that I thought. I mean, I had the Bucs winning on that D-line,
Me too.
and that's the reason primarily I had them winning that game. But man, does that burn? I mean, Jameis going down also. I mean, that's awful for them, of course.
But Fitzpatrick came in there and did really well, actually.
Yeah, he climbed them back into the game because anyway, Jameis wasn't doing anything crazy. The Cardinals came and jumped on them. I mean, they really felt the momentum of Adrian Peterson joining the squad, and you saw it right off the bat.
Oh, of course.
We've been talking about how they have not had any running game. The past, I mean, obviously, since David Johnson went down, they haven't had any running game. And now, with him coming back, now Larry Fitzgerald is like, oh, finally. And he goes gets 138 yards himself.
And he said at the postgame press conference, if AP had been there 10 years ago, he would have had a Super Bowl ring already. So, I mean, I don't disagree with Larry Fitzgerald at all, but it's really good for me to see Carson Palmer go out there so heavily criticized, 18 of 22 passing, just a great game, a 96 QBR, 3 touchdowns, 283 yards passing. We talk about the leadership a lot in college football in these quarterbacks. I want to talk about the veteran presence that Carson Palmer displayed yesterday. All the noise obviously was on Adrian Peterson. He was able to finally give the rock to a running back, which was something that the Cardinals couldn't do until they had David Johnson. But now that David Johnson's gone, can you imagine when David Johnson comes back? Imagine that. And if he does it, if he comes back sometime this year, imagine that. With David Johnson and Peterson in that backfield.
Right. The backfield is going to be great, but at the end of the day, I don't think Carson Palmer has what it takes to take this team to the postseason.
No. And I don't want to insinuate that at all. But Carson Palmer yesterday, especially against that defense, Tampa Bay, that offensive line with McCoy and Alexander, all those defensive studs, TJ Ward in the secondary, Grimes, all those guys for Tampa Bay. It's tough to beat those guys out in Tampa Bay. But it was really good to see the Arizona Cardinals come out. Yeah, Tampa scored 27 points in the fourth quarter. I get it. But it was enough. The defense did its job, and the Cardinals got a big victory. Now they go on to London this next week, and they leave today, as a matter of fact, to go to London. So we'll see what happens with them next week.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers has a broken collarbone, and he could miss the rest of the season. Happened on a play yesterday where Anthony Barr had all of his weight coming down him after Rodgers got rid of the ball. It's a controversy this morning. Was it a dirty hit? Was it not a dirty hit? No, it wasn't a dirty hit. It's just like that's what linebackers are. You're finishing the tackle. So I don't see how that's a dirty play at all. But the Green Bay Packers are finished. They're spent. They don't have any chance in any capacity to win any sort of meaningful game whatsoever with Brent Hundley at quarterback. Without Aaron Rodgers, they're done.
Well, they're going to the reason they were even staying afloat is Aaron Rodgers' ability to be creative in the pocket and make moves. Now, with Hundley, he's going to have to utilize his style of QB, which is athleticism, which is moving and running, which we'll see how that goes with this offense and how they can work it. But for now, I mean, obviously, you lose like arguably the best quarterback in the league right now. You're gonna have problems. Simple as that. I mean, anyone can see that, and it's there's not too much to overthink here.
No, and it's sad for the NFL, especially. They lost Odell Beckham Jr. Then you lost J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
Now you lose Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Ouch. Tom Brady. He's past Brett Favre, past Peyton Manning. 187th win, the winningest quarterback of all time.
Well, just adds to the GOAT resume.
He's the GOAT. We said this. We said this when they won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Matt Lively was here in studio. We all virtually agreed together. Tom Brady is the GOAT, no questions asked. He had been tied with Brett Favre and Peyton Manning for 186 at the point. The guy's 40 years old and still balling, playing like he's 25.
No problems.
No problems at all. I'm not surprised at all. Ezekiel Elliott situation. Let's dive into that for a second.
Yep.
So, for those who don't know, it was on Thursday. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, reading off an article from CBSSports.com. They vacated the injunction granted to the Cowboys running back by a Texas judge. The injunction kept Elliott's 6-game suspension from the NFL at bay and allowing the Cowboys running back to playing football. So this is a very complicated situation. And Harley, how, as a Cowboy fan, how do you feel now that this is back in the news once again?
At this point, I think accepting the suspension and just moving on is the most important thing for Ezekiel Elliott to do. Because if you look at it, going down the stretch, he's missing some big games right now if the suspension sticks. But you can't have this going down the course of the season when you're going to probably, potentially wind up playing for, your NFC's championship crown against teams like Washington, New York, who beat Denver last night, and then, of course, Philadelphia, who's probably the best team in the NFC. So for me, I get he wants to fight and keep his name clean. But at this point, I think the football aspect, you should just let this go.
I agree.
Yeah, I was probably going to say the same thing. I was really thinking about, okay, should he fight this? Is there even a chance? But this has been so drawn out for so long that I totally agree with you, Harley. Like, just let it happen. Pay your due and just move on and play the game.
Yeah.
And learn from the mistake.
And I think he has, and he's still a young man. He's still learning a whole bunch of new things.
Well, we'll see if he has when his life continues and it moves on. But I agree to hoping that he really has. And when this happens, I mean, he's hurting worse than any of us.
Absolutely.
Not being able to help his team out there. And Dak is gonna also hurt. If we're talking about just football, Dak's going to hurt a lot too, because when Zeke's on the field, obviously his life becomes a lot easier.
And obviously Alfred Morris and Darren McFadden, those are solid running backs. I mean, they're known as Ezekiel Elliott, but how do you feel about Morris and McFadden taking the workload now?
McFadden ran for 1,000 yards just 2 years ago. So as a Cowboys fan, I'm not too worried about it. I know as a fantasy owner, as soon as I heard Zeke was
everybody was flocking to ESPN to pick him up.
But I think they're both capable backs, and I think Dallas saw this coming early. When Ellis came down in training camp, because they signed, I think it was Ronnie Hillman.
Yeah. And
then, you have Morris and McFadden and Zeke, 4 extremely capable running backs. So when this ruling came down, they were prepared. And I think they've kept McFadden fresh. He hasn't played. So if I had to guess, he's actually going to be the starter and get the bulk of the carries.
Yeah, I would go with McFadden. Just like you said, he hasn't played much. He's going to be fresh. And I'm excited to see what the Cowboys are going to do with that running back tandem. The Kansas City Chiefs lost for the first time yesterday, albeit to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it was a 19-3 victory for Pittsburgh. And yet Martavis Bryant is still requesting for a trade after this. But Ben Roethlisberger, we'll get to that in just a second. But Ben Roethlisberger, 252 yards. Le'Veon Bell, there was a sighting of him, 179 yards. Talk about balling out. Good to see him coming out and balling like he did.
Yeah. No. When it comes to the great hesitator, you already know that he's going to get it done.
And Antonio Brown, 155 yards. There was a lot of blow up a few weeks ago when he went bonkers and just bananas on the sideline against the Baltimore Ravens. I think that Pittsburgh, this is just a team, you got to have your quarterback. He's going out there and he's saying, I don't know if I can play. Maybe I should just retire. He started the year just talking about retiring, and now he's all over the place. Should I keep playing? Should I not be playing? There just appears to be some inconsistencies with this franchise.
And you can see it in his game, too.
Yeah.
You could see it in his game. It's not only in decision-making, but throughout this season, the Steelers have looked like the Steelers, and then they've looked like a team that is kind of just given up kind of as far as where this franchise is headed. Yeah. And then you see now with Martavis Bryant, they're requesting the trade. What is going on in that front office? What's going on in that locker room?
I think they're I'm going to harpoon back to the Ben Roethlisberger point. And that is, this is your franchise quarterback. He's won you Super Bowls. And you got him out there right now talking to the media, talking to the press at 35 years old. And he's talking about retiring. He's so inconsistent. Should I keep playing? Should I not keep playing? I think that's something that the front office has to address. And moving forward, if you're Ben Roethlisberger, you got to go out there and ball. No excuses whatsoever.
Yeah, Harley mentioned it now. Eagles are looking real good. Woo. And it was a big game with the Panthers on Thursday. It was basically who's going to take a big lead in the NFC East or who's going to take a big lead in the NFC South. Turns out that Philly gets it done.
What a ball game to watch. It was tight throughout the whole game, 3-3 after the first quarter, 10-10 going into halftime. And then the Eagles got 11 points in the third quarter and then another 7 in the seventh. But Carson Wentz, 222 yards, 3 touchdowns. Wentz looked really good. Good to see Alshon Jeffrey with 71 yards. He was a big signing for the Eagles in the offseason. The Eagles are the best team in the NFC East right now, and arguably in the NFC, like Harley said it completely. And there's no question in my mind that once the Eagles and the Cowboys get together, or the Eagles and the Skins, that's going to be talked about a lot, especially for the purposes of the NFC East. Really excited to see how this goes moving forward.
The Eagles look fantastic. I mean, their defensive line is just applying so much pressure on these quarterbacks. Cam Newton had 3 interceptions. They have been fantastic all season long. We'll see if they can keep it up. We saw something similar to this in the Vikings last year, where they got off to a really hot start primarily on their defense, and it didn't. Then it just stopped, straight up stopped, and went 360. So we'll see if the Eagles can actually keep it up.
Yeah, and I'm interested to also see how the Panthers are going to carry on from this, because the Panthers are now 4-2.
They'll be fine. I mean, they have Cam Newton as the leader. Within the locker room, he seems like he is a solid leader, and they don't really let. I don't. Last season, I'd say they let losses really get to them, but this year it doesn't seem like that is that kind of team. But we'll see how it goes.
And even though Atlanta lost yesterday, Atlanta's 3-2. Carolina's in first place, and Tampa Bay we don't know what's going to happen with Jameis Winston. Very subpar performance against Arizona. But moving forward, the Carolina Panthers, to me, and along with the Atlanta Falcons, those are the 2 teams to watch in the NFC South. Going to be really interesting to see moving forward.
Stop being a bonehead.
It's time for Weston's Bonehead of the Week.
This week's Bonehead of the Week, we're going to go out into some preseason basketball, which is going to segue to our next segment because we're going to be doing a bunch of NBA predictions. Let's go out to the Garden with the New York Knicks and the Houston Rockets. Now we're going to be all like, oh, we're talking about the Knicks. Now something funny is about to happen, obviously, because with this franchise. End of the first half, 3 seconds left. I'm looking at it right now. Plays fully out right in front of me. So James Harden goes to the rack, misses the layup. Jarrett Jack picks it up, chucks it completely to the other end of the court, and ends up at least way over the backboard, completely chucks it way into the stands. And when you see it, only seeing it will suffice. You have to see this. Go and check. It's number 3 on SportsCenter's Not Top 10. Just flat out chucks the ball like a gunslinger in football, like Aaron Rodgers does in those Hail Marys.
Jarrett Jack is back.
Jarrett Jack, I mean, the personification of the New York Knicks, right there. Exactly right there. And how this franchise is run. We'll see how they do with Phil Jackson gone. But Jarrett Jack is this week's Bonehead of the Week. The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay here on Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Eliav's favorite show of the year because this is the NBA season. Starts tomorrow.
Preseason!
2 big games coming up tomorrow. And we got another guy in here who knows a thing or two about basketball. He's going to join the show next. His name is Troy Tauscher. He will join the show next with Weston DeWitt and Eliav Gabay. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay here on Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. That's for you, ASU. Thunder. Welcome back to the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay here on Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. The NBA season is here. As of tomorrow, that is, of course. And we have somebody very special in studio to talk with us. Executive producer, Cronkite Sports, co-host of WWE Weekly here on Blaze Radio every Tuesday from 8 to 9 p.m. with Nick Batters and Ryan Red. Also, since we're talking NBA, he is an NBA writer for FanRag Sports, so he knows a thing or two. The one and only Troy Tauscher's in the house today. Troy, how you doing, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really happy to be here. This is an awesome show, and seeing all the guests go through. And now NBA is back, so it's my turn.
Yeah.
So let's dive right into it. I mean, let's just hit some quick news and notes that happened over the offseason. One of the things that happened as of recently was Richard Jefferson got traded to the Atlanta Hawks.
Along with Kay Felder.
And what did you make of that move all of a sudden? Because Jefferson seemed really comfortable and a really good fit for the Cavs there.
Especially from veteran experience. I mean, huge.
It's interesting because especially what I really look back at is the 2016 finals, where all of a sudden when the Cavs were making their comeback, Richard Jefferson was like playing well.
Right.
And I was really astonished. I was like, Richard Jefferson is like 49 years old. I feel like how is he doing this? What happened? He was in the same like cryo chamber that they had Sean Marion and James Jones in. And he just came out and was playing.
Right. He looked like New Jersey Nets, Richard Jefferson.
Basically.
Right, exactly.
But I feel like it's one of those things when you're a team like the Cavs and you're really good and you're going to be among the top of your conference, but you also have this massive payroll that any space in the depth chart and in your balance sheet that you can move on from, you kind of got to do it. So I think if they thought that Richard Jefferson thing was kind of tailing off, last season wasn't the same as his playoff performance the year prior. So I think they're just trying to get a little bit of space, give themselves just a bit of flexibility so they can kind of read the terrain when they go into the season.
And especially with the drama that we've seen with this team in the locker room, I think they might miss him more than we think.
Yeah.
When you have a guy like that everybody likes, and is just a great leader morale-wise in your locker room, it might hurt when it gets into the tougher parts of the season. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the straight-up numbers, I guess besides, the postseason when he can really show up, which is most important, but regular season-wise, I guess he's just not quite always there. Another news, Andrew Wiggins finally actually signs the 4-year, about $146.5 million deal. Does he deserve it?
No, but the thing about it is...
It's an investment.
Yeah, this is the system of the NBA, and I could talk about this for the entire segment, but the thing about the NBA's salary system, I think it's... There are things about it that are good, and I don't know necessarily how you'd fix it, but one of the problems is teams are very tied into their own players, and that's through things like the bird rights system and other stuff that really forces you to either keep your team together or not have anything. So the problem with all of these guys that hit free agency is it's not you can have Andrew Wiggins or another good player. You can have Andrew Wiggins or no one. And it's the same with veteran guys. Like the Raptors couldn't choose between Kyle Lowry or another star point guard. There was Kyle Lowry or no one because they wouldn't have any cap space. And I feel like with Wiggins and other guys like him, one that I'm pretty sure we'll talk about later, you just have to make this investment because if they leave and you're wrong, you've blown a huge opportunity for your growing franchise, especially with the number 1 overall pick.
When it comes to the rest of the roster, I mean, they're going to have to pay a lot of players. If things go right, they're going to have to pay a lot of players. So it's interesting. They're definitely investing in him, so it'll be cool to see. Rondo's out 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, well, and any chance he thought that this could work for the Pelicans? Well, it still might. It still might. He'll come back, but now you're really, really relying on just the 2 big men.
Yeah, I feel like Rondo's just cursed at this point. Every time there's just a sliver of a chance that things are gonna go well for him in the destination, it just doesn't happen. The moment it starts looking up for the Bulls in the regular season, he gets benched because he's mad. Then in the playoffs, he has a couple games and the Bulls look good against the top seeded Celtics, and then he gets hurt. So I guess Rondo is not allowed to ever
find happiness.
Yeah, just never allowed to do anything ever again because every time it looks good, something goes wrong.
We're gonna go past just talk about each of these real quick because we do want to get to the fun part of all our predictions that are probably going to be wrong. So McCollum got suspended game 1 because he left the bench against the Suns. That's whatever. Just dumb preseason. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Then there's Nicholas Batum, bigger deal, out 6 to 8 weeks. Now,
That's a big loss.
Oh, yeah. The Charlotte Hornets are going to miss
Charlotte's got
him
problems.
Big time. And now, Embiid, 5-year, $146.5 million.
You want to do this now or do you want to save that for the projections that we have?
Okay, you know what? We'll save it for the projections because we're going to go off on that for a big
he'll come
while.
up later, I guarantee you.
Oh, yeah. All right. So now let's get into our postseason way too early lookouts. All right, Weston, let's start with you. Okay. Who you got as your 8 from the West?
8 from the West, I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets. And I think this is a team, they signed Paul Millsap. I'm a huge fan of that signing. They got a lot of young studs out there in Denver. And Barton is a candidate for most improved or sixth man of the year. Barton's a solid option there at the 2. I like Moutier. I like Harris. I love the mindset of this Denver team, and I think they could sneak in as the 8 seed.
Yeah, I think they'll do more than sneak in. Personally, I have them. Even
and I think I'm sorry to cut you off. I just think there's way too many powerhouse teams in the West. Like we're looking at Golden State, San Antonio, Oklahoma City. Like there's just a lot of power in that Western Conference. So I think that when I say sneaking in, I look at the other teams' landscape, and Denver's not even near that level. Right. So I just think it's close.
Troy,
can I ask him a question?
Yes.
Who do you have at 6 and 7? Then I'm curious.
Well, we'll get there.
We'll get to that.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, we're going up.
Yes.
All right.
We'll go up.
So number 8, I have the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, the Grizzlies, they get a lot of doubt because they lost Tony Allen, and Zach Randolph, and generally did not get like any high quality additions. They got a few guys here and there, but nothing major. My thing with Memphis is I have them tied in wins and just barely edging out the Clippers for the 8th seed. And my thinking here between these two teams is I can't punish one of them for having injury-prone guys like Blake Griffin while also not recognizing the possibility that if Conley or Gasol, who have been injured in the past, go out, Memphis is toast.
Yeah.
But when I look at it, Conley and Gasol had that one bad year in 2015, 2016, where they each played about 50 games.
Right.
Last season, though, the health held up. So I feel like it's fair of me to say, if I'm just judging it off, really, which of these two teams is healthier, I've seen more encouraging signs from Memphis that their guys can endure. And if they do, I think they'll be about even with the Clippers.
I agree with you as far as, besides that one season, Memphis has been generally healthy. With the Clippers, we've seen health problems over and over and over again, specifically Blake Griffin.
And Gallo.
But that's of course. And they both get it while punching people. Number 8th seed for me, the Portland Trailblazers. I think that their defense is going to really hurt them. But at the end of the day, they still have 2 star studs at their guard position. And of course, that is in CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard. So that will go along. If Yusuf Nurkic could be healthy, that'd be great for them. All right, number 7.
Yeah, with 7, I'm going.
Let's be a little quicker with these.
Following up with you, I got Portland at the 7th seed. I think it was tough for me to go Denver or Portland, but I just got to go with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum over Denver. I think they got the 7th seed.
So while we're already on it, I have Denver as the 7th seed.
Oh, okay.
We flipped it a little bit.
I have Portland at 7 as well. I didn't have them in the playoffs as early as yesterday. But when I sat down and looked at it empirically, I was just like, this is the team of these sort of bubble teams that is bringing back everything they had in terms of stars. Like these other teams like Utah and LA, they lost an All-NBA All-Star caliber player, and there's an adjustment there. Portland, I mean, they traded away Alan Crabb, which he was an important player for them, but I just feel like Portland is cohesive because they have generally the same major players.
It's a good point right there.
And if Nurkic pans out, which I'm but if Nurkic can just play at a decent level, I think he'll shore up their defense enough that they'll make the 7.
All right, now let's switch it over to the East side. We'll do 8 and 7 as well. And I'm going to go number 8 for me. The Detroit Pistons are slipping in. And at number 7, the Charlotte Hornets are going to be there because of Kemba Walker. And I think Dwight will be okay for them. I think he'll do enough to help out Kemba. And with Detroit Pistons, I believe enough in Andre Drummond and Reggie Jackson, which I know Troy hates hearing that, but I believe enough in them that they can make the 8th seed.
And by the way, I like the Avery Bradley pickup for Detroit.
Oh,
I think that was a great pickup for Detroit. And for my 8th seed, I got Detroit as the 8th seed as well. And then for me at 7, I'm going the Miami Heat at 7.
Okay. It's a bit low, I think, for me, but
it's a little bit low. But I just think we'll get to the 6, 5, and 4 later. But I'm harpooning on your Detroit comment. I really have been a big believer of Andre Drummond. And did he deserve? He got that money last year. He's a walking double-double. Yeah, he needs to work on his free throws.
Yeah.
But you got a great coach there in Stan Van Gundy who knows what he's doing.
And we'll see if Tobias Harris can take that next step.
Exactly.
And
I like the mindset of this Detroit Pistons team. Who do you got at 7-8, Troy?
I have Detroit at 8 and tied with him in wins, so just like barely edging out a tiebreaker. I have Philadelphia at 7, just because of because of the Batum injury. Because I think Charlotte is going to be in real trouble with this Batum thing. Now,
yeah, he's been hurt a lot.
Originally, I had Charlotte up at 7. I had Philly at 8, like barely inching out Detroit, just because I feel like the problem for me with Detroit really is they seem very hesitant to play the way they should play, or they seem unhappy with something. Like last season, everything about them said, okay team, okay team, okay team, but they were so miserable all the time. They just kept losing all these games. So I'm a little hesitant to trust Detroit. I do think Avery Bradley is a good replacement for KCP. So just sort of by the injury thing, I just think both these teams move up a slot. I have them in the high 30s in wins because that's the Eastern Conference, but I'm just betting on Philly to surprise.
Yeah, and that's not a bad pick ultimately.
No,
I can't get myself to do it just because young teams do not win in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
This isn't hockey where young teams
facts.
win.
It's just facts. Every year, young teams don't win in the NBA, and when their core, their heart of hearts is so young, I just can't buy in. But everyone else seems to be doing it, so you might be right. All right. Let's do 6, 5, 4 on the West. I'm gonna go 6. Memphis Grizzlies coming in, surprising everyone. I really think that with Fizdale getting another year with this team and him having the exact same mentality as his superstars do in Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, I really think they can really get it going there, get that chemistry, keep it on, and I don't see any reason Marc Gasol and Mike Conley don't even get better. If Chandler Parsons can even play a little bit, they'll be great. Now, Minnesota Timberwolves, number 5, obvious reasons. They look solid. Their roster is pretty stacked. Jeff Teague and Jimmy Butler as additions. And then number 4, OKC. I have their bench being a little bit short, but their starters are phenomenal. I think that they'll make it work. They'll find a way to make it work, unlike a lot of people believe that they will with those 3 players, obviously in Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, and Russell Westbrook. But those are my 6-5-4.
6-5-4. I'm really similar to you, actually. I got Memphis as the 6 as well. So I'm going to go with Memphis at the 6. At the 5, I'm going to go Minnesota as well. I'm fascinated with what the Minnesota Timberwolves did over the offseason.
It's going to be very interesting.
You know, I was in Minnesota for 2 years before I came to ASU, and that's a town that loves the Timberwolves. They are starving for some kind of success from this franchise. Going back to the days when Kevin Garnett, the big ticket, was taking over Target Center. And
Kevin Love was really good there, too.
Kevin Love was good. I mean, he just didn't have any help around him to get to the postseason. But I'm fascinated with the way with Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, and I love me some Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah. Cat's great. Oh, I love that guy. He's such a beast down in the paint, and he can shoot the 3-ball too. That's what I love about Karl Anthony Towns. So I got them at the 5. At the 4, I went with Houston at the 4.
Wow,
that's interesting.
That is interesting. That's a big drop.
And so I think you guys can put together who 1, 2, and 3 would be. I mean, we can discuss the order in a second, but we've talked about this a few weeks ago, Eliav. I'm not trying to downplay James Harden or Chris Paul at all. I just want to see how James Harden is going to adjust back at the 2 spot, because Chris Paul came in. Because remember last year, Harden took the point guard position and ran with it and just killed it.
Literally ran with it.
And so I just think that I want to see how Chris Paul is going to fit in with him at the point guard position. But I still like Houston to make some noise. I like Houston. I got them at the 4.
All right. So my number 6 is the Nuggets.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
They're young and they've got some flaws. My thing with them over a couple of these other teams, particularly Memphis, is with Memphis, I'm just afraid of a team that's starting Wayne Selden and I think Glenn Robinson III at its wing spots. I'm just worried about that. But Denver, the thing with me to them is with Paul Millsap and Nikola Jokic, you have 2 big men who can play in a lot of different areas on the floor, who can move the ball to each other, to teammates outside. Yeah. And I feel like in the NBA regular season, you can just bamboozle teams with that. Like, teams are not gunning.
Good word.
Teams are just not gunning to defend that. So you can easily just trick teams to to a 6 seed. Number 5, I have Minnesota as well. I think they kind of hang in this middle range where, because two of their better players are still quite young, they're not in the tier with these other
Right,
four,
the elite.
but they're definitely a step above this sort of 6 to 10 like slog of decent teams.
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by them. I'm interested to see Wiggins and Butler together. They have Jeff Teague and Taj Gibson now, and they're both new starters. I like both those guys, but it's just one of those things where when you introduce 3 new players in your starting lineup who all have their own needs, who all have their own sort of established foothold on their place in the league, it's sometimes tough. So I wonder how that's going to work, but I definitely am buying this team. And then number 4, I have the Thunder. I just feel like just with the depth, and I was talking to you, Eliav, about this the other day, I just feel like the depth, it's okay. They could use definitely another like actual big man to back up Steven Adams now that they don't have Canner. And they could use just a couple other guys to sort of fill out spots. And I think if they don't get that, if you just rest Carmelo Anthony or he's injured for a couple weeks or something like that, I think those start to tick you down a little bit to where I think they're a step below the other 3 teams.
Yeah. And to follow up with Minnesota, Tom Thibodeau, he's a defensive-minded coach. That's exactly what the Timberwolves need. Let's go over to the East real quick. Let's do
6-5-4.
6-5-4-3. And then let's also do 3-2-1. Let's finish out the East.
No, we'll do 3-2-1. We'll switch it back over and then we'll come back.
Yes.
So 6-5-4. I'll start it off. I have Miami Heat, then I have the Milwaukee Bucks, and then I have at 4 the Toronto Raptors. So with me, the Miami Heat showed a lot of nice stuff going in the second half of last year. I mean, they were one of the best teams in the NBA just based off the second half of last season. And then the Milwaukee Bucks, I mean, Giannis, it's a young team. Jason Kidd's doing a great job, and I just see them taking that next step. Now, the Toronto Raptors, I almost put the Milwaukee Bucks over the Raptors, but the Raptors still have a great team. They still have a lot of the same players, like you were saying earlier, and I see them at least getting the 4 spot.
I am switching a quick pick real quick. Charlotte, I had Charlotte at the 6. I can't do it. I got to flip. Miami's going to be the 6. Charlotte's going to be the 7. So I got Miami at the 6. And then 5, I got Toronto. 4, Milwaukee.
Okay.
Like you hit everything with Milwaukee. I'm obsessed with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Jason Kidd, great coach, just what the Bucks need. That's why 6, 4, 5.
Yeah, Giannis is phenomenal. I have the same as you. I have Miami, Milwaukee, and then 4, I have Toronto. I feel like Milwaukee especially is interesting to me, and so is Toronto, because, well, for Toronto, it's because they lost PJ Tucker and Patrick Patterson and Corey Joseph, and those guys were all important parts of their bench, especially late in the season. So it's going to take a little time for those guys to step up in the rotation, and everyone kind of moves up a tier, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but their core is still there.
That's why I still think they're the 4. But I think when you get to this high, it's just like on the margins. When you're playing those 4 minutes at the end of the second quarter, that's what sort of separates you from a top 3 seed. Milwaukee just has one of the top 6 or 7 players in the league at this point, so they kind of get an automatic ticket as long as the team around them is decent. Right. And Miami, their names are still weird to me. Like, now they have Kelly Olynyk. And
they're still adjusting almost.
Yeah, Rodney Magruder's now hurt, but I just feel like we've seen that Spoelstra can coach a team that has just a couple of good guys into the place they need to go. If you put guys who can defend and guys who can shoot around them, and that's definitely good enough for a comfortable 6 seed.
And I also liked about the second half of the season last year is that people saw that Eric Spoelstra is actually a good coach. Yeah. He didn't just have that super team and that was it. He is actually a good coach that can get his work done, and we'll see that again this year.
I was adamantly against his Coach of the Year candidacy, though.
He's a favorite this year for Coach of the Year again.
That's fair this year. I just didn't like that we only remembered 30-11 in the second half of the season when people were talking about that, and not the 11-30 where he was also the head coach. Anyway. Yeah,
no, well, that's definitely acceptable. And it makes sense. It makes sense. All right, top 3 on the West Side. I have the San Antonio Spurs at 3, the Houston Rockets at 2, and the Golden State Warriors at 1. There's not too much explaining to do for this. Basically, I really just think the Spurs are the Spurs. They still got Pop, still have Kawhi Leonard, who's going to, I think, take another step towards the best player in the league this year. And then for the Rockets, I think CP3 will mesh just fine with that entire mentality that Mike D'Antoni's got over there. And I think James Harden will be just fine at the 2 because he knows how to work off of other great players. And then, do I have to say much about the Golden State Warriors?
No.
They're obviously the
Yeah.
first seed.
Yeah. Those are my top 3 as well. Not much to say.
Yeah, top 3. I went Oklahoma City at 3, San Antonio at 2, Golden State at 1. You hit it completely on the money.
All right, now the East side. Washington is number 3 for me. Cavaliers are number 2, and the Boston Celtics are number 1. Now, I was this close.
That's really close.
This close to putting the Wizards over the Cavs. This
seen
close
that.
because IT is hurt for so long. They're going to have some meshing issues, and the Wizards are underrated. The Wizards are very good. Their roster is solid, and there's no reason for this team to not be very, very solid moving forward. And of course, the Boston Celtics, I think they're gonna be very solid as well, and one of the elite teams in the league, no doubt.
Dude, when you said Washington over Cleveland, I was like, what? But then you mentioned the IT injury. I completely spaced that out. That is a great point. I have the same thing. 3's Washington, 2 Cleveland, 1 Boston.
Yeah, I'm the same. I came kind of close to putting Washington over Cleveland. What I kind of just settled on is this opens LeBron, and this opens up an opportunity for Kevin Love to really not be crowded out. And they've gotten much better at that over the 3 years he's been on the team. That first year was a mess. He was like basically underutilized to an insane degree.
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten a lot better at that. And now this opens up a door. So I think if guys like Derrick Rose and Dwayne Wade and J.R. Smith can just like be okay, Kevin Love can pick up some of the load and LeBron will just now permanently handle the ball. Forever, and I think that'll be okay.
And when you mention the other guys, I mean, their bench is very deep.
Yeah.
Their bench, like, not having IT, they're still very elite.
Jay Crowder coming off the bench is going to be huge.
Jay Crowder for them is huge.
Oh, yeah, that's
you
of course.
You need Jay Crowder.
One of the best LeBron defenders are now on his team.
You need Jay Crowder if you're going to play the Warriors.
Okay, so we got it all chalked up, all 8 from each conference, and now let's move on to some surprising teams and disappointing teams, and surprising players, disappointing players. I'm going to start it off with let's start with sad and we'll go to happy. My disappointing, and we'll do them together. Disappointing team and disappointing player, mine go hand in hand. The Los Angeles Clippers and DeAndre Jordan. All right, the Los Angeles Clippers, because Blake will get hurt, as he always does, and there will be no CP3 to help him out when that does happen. And then same reason, DeAndre Jordan, because now that there's no CP3, and I don't want to hear anything about Milo being that replacement. With no CP3, DeAndre Jordan will be seen for everything he truly is this year. Not an all-NBA first-team center who doesn't even have a post move to offer. Okay? Can we be real for a second? I don't understand what the hype of DeAndre Jordan is. He is very good on defense. He can't do anything on offense besides dunk, and that's not an exaggeration. He does a pick and roll really well. He can catch a lob. Congratulations. The dude's an athletic freak. I get it. But he doesn't have any post moves. He will be seen for everything he is, and that is far from an all-NBA first-team center.
Troy?
All right. Well,
mic drop.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can kind of follow that up because my disappointing player is Joel Embiid. Now before the entire city of Philadelphia drives down to Phoenix to like burn down my house, I think Joel Embiid is going to be a really good player if he can stay healthy, like a phenomenal player. I think he's one of the top handful of centers in the league. But this thing that happens where we see a good young big guy, like a really good one, and we just immediately vaunt him into first team All-NBA center, like on the level of Hakeem and Shaq and Wilt.
I.e. Anthony Davis.
Yeah, i.e. Anthony Davis and Karl Anthony Towns. And those guys are excellent players, but when they don't achieve like literal God status in their second and third season, then everyone's like, oh, grumble, look, Anthony Davis isn't that good anymore, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you're expecting him to be like him in year 5 or 6 when it's his second year where he's able to play basketball. So I just want everyone to kind of dial it back a little bit because we just do the same thing over and over. And I think Embiid may even become better than those guys. It's possible. I just don't feel like he's that separated that we don't have to let him prove it first. And it just bothers me that we're doing this again.
I agree. And as far as dialing it back, should have Philly dialed it back with that contract. Because that was a big investment for a guy that played 31 games.
Again, it's that thing where if they're wrong, then they're screwed. So you kind of like there's a sense that you kind of have to do it. My thing is, from what I understand, is there are conditions in the contract giving them relief if he can't play due to knee or back issues, which if that then I'm okay with it. Then I'm much better with it because it means you're not putting on this massive risk. So I mean, it's again, I don't think he's worth the money now. I just think you have to give him the money and hope that he'll grow into the mold.
Yeah.
Weston?
I think, I'm not going with a very sexy pick like that. I'm going to go with the simple one. Dwight Howard has just completely fallen off the map. Now there's this new fresh start, supposedly, in Charlotte after a year.
How many fresh starts has he had?
With the Lakers, fresh start, Rockets with the fresh start, Hawks with the fresh start.
Yeah.
And, it's just continuously downhill for this guy. And at once we looked at this guy as the most dominant big man the game has seen in a long time. And now it's just a admirable fill-in for the Charlotte Hornets. There's no way that this guy is ever going to get back to what he was, and he's never going to even get back to average status to me. Never.
And the reason that I'm going to back you up on this, the reason I'd say that is going to be a disappointing player, because a lot of people who play close attention to the NBA would be like, well, that's not disappointing. I already know he's not going to be that good. A lot of people just see the name Dwight Howard and are like, oh, Dwight Howard, he's still really, really great. He's like you said, he's one of the more dominant. It's like, no, far from that. Peak of Dwight's career was the Magic. It's sad to say, but it is what it is. The best he's ever been, the best he's ever will be, was that last year or the last couple years on the Magic.
Yeah.
2 years ago, Dwight Howard was actually untradeable. They tried, Houston tried to get off him at the deadline and they couldn't because no one really needs a center and no one wanted Dwight. That's all you need to know.
By the way, disappointing teams, both of you guys.
Yeah.
Disappointing team, Los Angeles Clippers. You said everything you said completely was absolutely on the button.
That's fair. My disappointing team is the Utah Jazz. Now, I feel like I have them for 40 wins. I have them at the 10th seed with 40 wins, just behind those other teams.
Just no offense.
Yeah, I just
No Gordon Hayward.
People really trust guys like Ricky Rubio and Rudy Gobert. And, all these guys. And I like these guys, Joe Ingles, Joe Johnson. These are all talented players. But you're going to have to work so hard for shots, all the time. And, in a Western Conference that has a lot of good offenses, like Denver and Minnesota and Portland and, go even higher, the Warriors and the Rockets, it's going to be really hard for them to score. And I think without enough shooting and without, they can play smart and they'll play hard. Mm-hmm. I just feel like on a practical level, you got to look at it and say, who is really getting 18, 19 points for this team? And I feel like if Rodney Hood is the first name that comes to mind with that, your offense has got problems. So I still think they're going to be a fine team. It wouldn't shock me at all if they got into the playoffs. I just feel like we want to feel optimistic for them because they still look okay after losing a star player, which
people are feeling bad about.
Yeah, but a lot of teams don't. A lot of teams don't look decent like this after a guy walks away in free agency. So I get kind of wanting to be hopeful for them. I just don't think they can score enough.
Yeah. All right, now let's do surprise team, surprise player real quick. My surprise player, D'Angelo Russell. People love to hate this guy. They love to. But the fact is, he is still a very good player. He's still up and coming. We have not seen his best, not even close. He will flourish in a system that is made for the point guards to flourish in Jeremy Lin and himself. And then Alan Crabb is also going to do work for them. But I definitely have D'Angelo Russell taking that another step forward. Yes,
I was going to try to make the same case for you. I got D'Angelo Russell too as the most improved.
Look at that.
I was ready to come in here and go okay, here's the case for D'Angelo Russell, but you just hit everything right on the head. I got D'Angelo Russell. Great system for him out there in Brooklyn. Yeah, it's made. You mentioned it. I think you mentioned perfectly. It's made for a point guard position. That's the prime position for a point guard to be in Brooklyn. And yes, the Brooklyn Nets stink. We know that, okay? But I like that the change for D'Angelo Russell going from Los Angeles to Brooklyn. I like the move. Most surprising player.
Yeah, I tried to pick a most surprising player who wasn't my most improved, so I didn't talk about the same guy twice, and therefore I also picked Russell.
No, there we go. Look at that.
Just because,
and we did not plan that. We swear we did not plan that.
We did not plan this at all. But just because, the things you guys mentioned, and also he's probably going to get the run we thought he was going to get with the Lakers, in the sense that when he came into the Lakers, it was like, hey, they're bad. He's, number 2 overall pick. They're going to give him a lot of time. They're going to give him a lot of control to learn. Essentially, we're repeating the same thing with Lonzo right now, but whatever. And I feel like now he's really going to get that because Brooklyn really does not care because they still don't have their pick.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have nothing to lose. Let D'Angelo Russell really show what value he makes to a young NBA team.
Yeah.
So I feel like they are open to doing that. He'll have a mentor in Jeremy Lin. And I just feel like, those two things combined are going to be good for him. And just sometimes a change of scenery is just really what a guy needs. We've seen that many, many times.
Hundreds of times.
And especially in his case, that it could really help as well. All right, surprise team. Let's make this one quick.
Yep.
I got the Memphis Grizzlies. I had the Milwaukee Bucks, but I've thought about it more and more. That's not surprising. Everyone better know that the Bucks are going to be very, very good. I had the Memphis Grizzlies because, of course, they lost Randolph, and that's a big hit. They lost Tony Allen. That's a big hit as far as their mentality is concerned. At the end of the day, again, Dave Fizdale, I am banking on him this year in my preseason picks. Yeah. I am banking on him to really bring this team together, along with his two superstars in Gasol and Conley. If Parsons can play half a season, that'd be nice.
Which would be nice.
But yes, Memphis Grizzlies, my surprise pick.
I got the Denver Nuggets. I think.
But is it a surprise?
I mean,
is that a surprise?
Yeah, I guess in the Western Conference terms, to get to there's so many good teams in the Western Conference. I just think that the way that Denver is kind of looked upon, I think that there are some that kind of outsiders that look at them and go this is a team that's still growing. They're not ready yet for the postseason. There's some that may think that. I think Denver is going to make a big step this year. I like Denver a lot this year. I just do.
I got to point out that it's funny that your surprise team is Denver, and I'm pretty sure you have them seated the lowest of the three of us. That's an interesting,
I know, that's crazy.
That's an interesting kind of wrinkle. I kind of picked two because, again, I didn't want to just pick the same teams over and over again for things. So Memphis was one. And then the other one that I don't feel like people are talking about because they're still not in the playoff picture is Indiana. I kind of like Indiana more than other people.
Why?
I disagree, Troy.
Their Vegas over-under was 31. I have them in the mid-30s. I feel like it might be just me believing in guys I want to believe in, like Bojan Bogdanovic and Thaddeus Young and Victor Oladipo and Darren Collison. But I just feel like they're competent enough that if the East is worse than we expect, could be in the conversation halfway through the season. Again, I don't think they're going to make it. I don't think they're going to get even that close. But I do feel like they will be better than some people expect because they lost Paul George and everyone thinks it's the apocalypse. But they have competent players, throughout their lineup. And I think they're okay.
But the reason I see what you're saying, but the reason I disagree is because they had competent players last year in addition to Paul George. In addition to PG, they had competent players, and still just something was just not happening. And so I just can't buy it.
These guys.
Yeah. You know what? That's what these preseason picks are about. The bolder ones.
Bold.
All right, let's go out to the awards. Let's start with probably the easiest one as of right now, Exec of the Year. I don't think there's any question Sam Presti has that locked up. I mean, he literally just gypped. He
heisted Paul George.
Paul George and
cookies.
Carmelo Anthony from the teams. I mean, he recognized the desperation in those franchises and totally just ravaged them.
He literally traded Serge Ibaka for Paul George by transitive because they got Oladipo and Sabonis for Ibaka.
That's right.
And then they gave up Oladipo and Sabonis for Paul George. So you traded Serge Ibaka for Paul George, and you also got Carmelo Anthony for a contract that you didn't want, and a young guy who may or may not actually be playable depending on the situation. So shout out to Sam Presti.
Yeah, completely. He'll be Executive of the Year, no question.
Presti for president. That's what I said.
Yeah, that's what you said.
All right, Rookie of the Year. I'm going to go with a little bit of surprise. Donovan Mitchell. Not enough people are talking about Spider, and he deserves it. There's no offense in Utah. They need him to step up, and I think he can answer that call. We've seen in preseason, we've seen in summer league, which is the only thing we have to base off of. He's been balling, and he just more than anything, of course, outside of the stats, because it's preseason summer league, you can't count too much on it. It's his mentality. He has this no fear mentality every time he goes out there. That the guy is just hungry, game in, game out. I don't think he's going to lose that hunger, and I think he's motivated to really, really put on a show. And I think because they're going to need him as well, he's going to do that for them.
So my Rookie of the Year is Lonzo Ball. And I just feel like the world...
I'll take that.
Yeah. I just think the world wants to give Lonzo Ball Rookie of the Year at this point. Because, Markelle Fultz is the #1 pick, so obviously he comes in with sort of an edge in people's minds. But I guess he's not even starting at this point. Jared Bayless is starting
Just
over him,
confusing.
which is odd. So I think that opens the door for Lonzo just because, in the heat of the LA spotlight, they're in the sort of second phase of this rebuild where you see 3 or 4 guys who are good players and may grow into players they want to keep for a long time. So now the eyes are really going to be on him to mediate that system, to get the ball to Ingram and Randall and all these other guys. And I feel like if he just does that competently, the Lakers don't even have to be good. If he looks competent doing that,
like 12-8.
Yeah, people will want to give it to him because of all the hype, and people were really weighing whether or not he would live up to it. And I think he will live up to it well enough, at least in the short term, that it'll work out for him and he'll get Rookie of the Year.
And I'll say this real quick before Weston goes. I'll say some guys burn out in that LA spotlight. Some guys flourish. I think he's one of those that can flourish.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Weston.
I'm going to go with Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons
For the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah. If he was willing to shoot a jumper, I might consider him.
We talked about disappointing in Joel Embiid, which completely came out of nowhere. But I think that Simmons and Embiid, and not to mention, they just got Markelle Fultz, the number 1 overall pick, and you picked them to be the 7th seed, for goodness sake. I didn't have him in the playoffs, but I like what Ben Simmons is like. He took a year, he was injured, but there's all this talk about him going on social media. Look at me, I'm the all and be all. Like we've had conversations about this. Ben Simmons needs to go out there and ball. And now that he's finally has the opportunity to do it, he didn't have it last year because he was hurt. He has the opportunity this year. He needs to go out and ball, and he's gonna win Rookie of the Year.
Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid both need to play well this season.
They need to, or I will unfollow them from everything. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, it'll be
too much.
It'll be really rough if they just blow it.
All right, Defensive Player of the Year. Another, I guess, relatively easy one as far as dwindling down to a few players. I'd like to see Rudy Gobert win it. I really would. But there's no reason Draymond doesn't win it again. There's just no reason. I was thinking, I'm just like, come on, just give me something like as to why he won't win. There's no reason. This team is backing him up. He has a fantastic squad. He is the leader of that defense. He is the anchor. And to me, barring injury, he's going to win it again.
I completely agree with you. I wanted to go Rudy Gobert. I was convinced that I tried to give myself just this belief that Rudy Gobert was going to go in there and win Defensive Player of the Year, but you mentioned disappointment in Utah. They lost Gordon Hayward, just such a huge loss for Utah. I think when it comes down to it, you got a guy in Draymond Green playing for the best team in the world, and yeah, it's not a sexy pick, I get it, but I got to go with Draymond. He's just way too solid lockdown of a defender, way too good.
Yeah, I picked Gobert.
No, there we go. Okay.
I like that. Yeah, I'm glad one of us.
But you don't have them in the playoffs.
No.
How does that work?
Because I think here's why. There needs to be a place where Utah gets its token apology. And I think it's here. Because with a team like this, especially with the Warriors, who I think people will grow to hate even more next season, I feel like if their defense, because their defense is going to be the foundation of what they're doing because they can't score. And if their defense is still very good, I feel like people will want to give it to Gobert because it's like, hey, this is the only thing the Jazz have. And the only reason they have it is because of him. I definitely would say, like, if you were betting money, probably bet on Draymond just because people really like their great teams. But in my opinion, I think Gobert will have the better case just because you look at what he's doing, you look at how much of what he is able to give them is decisive to their success. Like, without their defense, they're like a 20-something win team. So I just feel like Gobert has a strong case.
I would agree if I had them in the postseason, but to me, if I don't have them in the postseason, that means something did not connect or didn't go right enough.
That's fair.
But I'd love for you to be right.
I'm picking this one with my heart.
There you go. That's fine. You got to have some of those picks.
Absolutely.
All right, most improved player. I'm going to go with the guy that was basically the runner-up last year in Nikola Jokic. I think that he has more in the tank. He has more to grow, especially learning from a guy like Paul Millsap, who is one of the best in that position. And I just think he has a higher ceiling. And he's going to find that, and we're going to see it.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow up with that. I'm going Jokic, too. I mean, I'm just, like I've talked about Denver a bunch of times here, guys, already. Like, this kid's only 22 years old, and I love the fact that he's combined with Paul Millsap out there in Denver. That's a great, and Millsap, that veteran leadership is exactly what he needs to be combined with. I like Jokic.
I think Jokic is too good.
That's what I was thinking, too. He might have gone, but I still,
I think he might have, like,
I'm buying in just to the higher ceiling. That's what I'm buying into.
Yeah, no, I have Miles Turner.
I like that. I like that a lot.
That's a good pick.
I went to that this morning because when I looked at it, I thought I mean, this award is one of the tropes about this award is this is the award that goes to the guy who just suddenly takes on a bigger role either with his team or with a new team. And I feel like that's definitely Turner because people, including myself, really like Miles Turner, and he is now the focal point of the team for better or worse. So I feel like even if they don't contribute that much to wins, his stats are going to be pretty insane. And I feel like people will look at that trajectory and be like, hey, look at Miles Turner suddenly taking over a team and they're only like a 32 win team, but look, he's averaging all of this now that Paul George is gone. He's the next big thing in Indiana. So I think Jokic has a case if he makes another big step, which is scary, but I feel like Turner has a little more of a margin for growth there.
I agree, and that's actually a great pick.
It is.
All right, now Coach of the Year, I'm gonna go with David Fizdale. Dave Fizdale of the Memphis Grizzlies.
You're high on Memphis, man.
Well, yeah, because all my picks, when I make picks, all of them go together. I either fail altogether or win it altogether.
That's how it always
so
goes.
that's why I have disappointing with Clippers and DeAndre.
You parlay your picks.
That's right. And then I have my surprising with Memphis, and of course now Dave Fizdale. Again, if they do well enough, if Fizdale can get them to that 6th seed that I have them at, then I think it's going to be obvious that Fizdale will be the guy. Will he do it? It'll be interesting, but I believe in that coaching, and take that for data. All right?
Nice. I wish we had that sound.
I have to plug that. I have to plug it.
Perfect.
Yeah, we got to get that.
I went with this last year, and I'm going to do it again. I went with Tom Thibodeau last year. I'm going to do it again. I've raved already about the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a team that's going to get. We all unanimously agreed as the 5 seed. What they did in the offseason, how they picked everybody up, a defensive-minded, brilliant coach that he is, combined with those kids and that talent, you got something special.
Yeah, your Fizdale pick is interesting to me because I think it points to the problem I had picking this award. I feel like this award is going to go to whichever playoff bubble team in either conference is better than we expect.
Right.
And so it's just kind of like picking.
It could be Terry Stotts too.
Yeah.
It could be Quinn Snyder.
If the Jazz make the playoffs, it's just Quinn Snyder. Like that's not even a question at this point. But because I don't have them in the playoffs, and I think Memphis is the same way. So because I have Memphis in and don't have Utah, I ultimately went with Fizdale. But if those two things switch, I think it definitely goes to Snyder.
Agreed.
But again, just being consistent because I have the Grizzlies and because that's sort of my criteria, I'm picking Fizdale.
Agree. All right, now the big one, the big
We need
baby.
to do 6 man.
Oh, that's true. 6 man. My bad. 6 man of the year. I'm going to go with Patrick Patterson of the Oklahoma City Thunder because it's simple as this. They don't have that many options off the bench. They're going to need somebody to step up when Steven Adams goes out, and Patrick Patterson's that guy. He was underappreciated in Toronto, I think, for most of his time there. Even when Serge came along and really took that starting spot from him, I still think that only in the postseason you saw how valuable he really was to them. And now that he's gone, they're really going to miss him. And he's going to produce. Straight up, he knows his job, he knows his game, he knows his identity, and I'm going to see him come up big and get that 6 man. And a big man don't usually get it, but I'm going to get it.
That's one of the reasons I'm picking Patterson is because I want a non-shooting guard to finally win the award. Like every year I'm doing this, it's like Taj Gibson, it's Markieff Morris, then it's all these guys. I'm just like, give it to a big man, please break this cycle. But no, I think Patterson, where are their bench points coming from? Patterson. That's about it.
Yeah.
Even the good bench guys on their team, and I guess Alex Abrinas too, but guys like Jeremy Grant, they're not going to do a lot of scoring. So I feel like
they're going to play roles.
Yeah, when you look at it, and he's going to be in big lineups when they want to score a lot of points, playing at center. He's going to be a major part of their lineups. He's going to be a major part of their bench scoring, and I feel like those two things combined make for a really good case.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Andre Iguodala as a 6 man. I think
always a fair one. Always a fair one. Eric Gordon's another good one always.
Everybody was picking Eric Gordon on Sports Illustrated and all those fancy websites. They're picking Eric Gordon, but Andre Iguodala, the Warriors picked up Swaggy P in the offseason.
Oh my God.
And
6 man, I'm changing my pick. Just kidding.
You know what? Yeah, I'm going to go Nick Young too. Sean Livingston, David West, those guys are going to contribute in points wise. They're going to give you points, but just the way that Andre Iguodala has an impact in this game and how he goes out there and plays with the Warriors. I love me some Andre Iguodala. He's going to be 6 man.
You mentioned Eric Gordon. As I said to you yesterday, I'll have Lou Williams and Eric Gordon have now replaced Jamal Crawford and Manu Ginobili in the automatically on the six-man ballot, regardless of how they actually play spots. Like those two, they have bequeathed those spots to the next generation of shooting guards, and it's those two guys.
All right, MVP. I'm gonna go with, and this is by default, kind of. I'm gonna go with Kawhi Leonard. I think that after thinking about it and talking about it, it's really tough to go with anyone for me other than him because you have all these stars that have come together now. Warriors, you can't pick any of them because, again, anytime MVP is going to be discussed now, it's going to be, okay, but who's on their team? Why is that team that good, right? It's going to take away from each other. CP3, Harden, I think they cancel each other out. For the most part.
Yeah.
The Warriors, they all cancel each other out. OKC, they all cancel each other out. I think even LeBron would be another one because of IT being out that you could be like, okay, what about him? He might get his. Or even Kyrie, you could say, could get MVP. Or John Wall. Like, there's a lot of good options, but at the end of the day, I think Kawhi has gotten better every single year. No reason he won't get even better this year. And on top of that, he has the roster to support him in that MVP campaign.
And we saw just how bad the Spurs were, like when Leonard wasn't in that lineup against the. We saw how bad it was. We see the impact that this guy has. So bad. And we see like the growth that this guy has made every year. And you made a really interesting point, Eliav. I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard too. But the fact that we're talking about all these super teams and all these guys are getting together, like Melo and George going to the Thunder, and all these guys in Golden State getting together. We've kind of lost like the one player on one team that has the ability to change a team, and that's Kawhi Leonard. I think we just know that naturally being basketball fans. Anyone who watches basketball knows that. So I'm excited to see how Kawhi Leonard takes even yet another step forward. Every year he takes a step forward. That's what I'm most excited about for Kawhi Leonard. I think he's going to win MVP.
Yeah, I have Kawhi as well for very similar reasons. I feel like all those guys are too grouped up. And then Giannis is another name I like. I just don't feel like unless he averages a triple-double Russ style, you're not going to do it from like the 5-6 seed. Like that's what we saw with Russ. Especially, and I do believe that a part of it was sympathy because KD left. You're never going to see someone do that for a long, long time. Therefore, I pick Kawhi, and I think it's interesting what you mentioned about these guys getting together and like the idea of the one player, because last year and in prior years, we've seen that. But I think a lot of guys have realized that's not good enough. If one team does it or two teams do it, everyone has to do it. And that's why you've got Paul George, Westbrook, Melo, CP and Harden, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, Kyrie Irving. Like, you've got all these teams because these guys realize if one team does it, everyone has to do it in order to keep pace. And that's why I feel like we're seeing, them all kind of bunched up together. But Kawhi stands out because the Spurs aren't doing that. Yeah, and I feel like everyone else moves out of the way. LeBron could get it if he really wanted it, but I doubt it. So I think Kawhi is the pick.
Troy, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, I love me some NBA, obviously, but what a conversation.
This is your show, bro. I love this.
It's a fantastic conversation. We hope you had a good time.
Yes, sir, man. Yeah, let's go back. Make sure you guys go check out the NBA is back as of tomorrow. Games return. Celtics, Cavs. I mean, Kyrie returning to Cleveland. I mean, you want to talk about must-see television? You got it right there.
I swear, if LeBron doesn't play,
and the Rockets
he's questionable.
And the Rockets take on the Warriors. So make sure you guys go check that out. Both games are on TNT. Thank you again, Troy, for coming on. Appreciate it, man.
Guys.
The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay, Blaze Radio, 1330 a.m. Holy cow. Wow, a lot of NBA talk right there. Wow. Just wow. The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay. Come on back with us. We're going to talk about U.S. soccer. And if you got some time, I got something to say about the Coyotes. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay here on Blaze Radio and BlazeRadioOnline.com. Blaze Radio, 1330 a.m. Streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. Thank you again to Troy Tauscher for talking all things basketball. Great job, buddy. Let's hit on some notes here real quick before we get on out of here for the day. The U.S. men's national team lost to Trinidad and Tobago 6 days ago, and they are eliminated from contention for the World Cup in 2018. I mean, Taylor Twellman of ESPN hit it really well on the head. It's just like, it's embarrassing. You don't deserve to go to the World Cup final. If you lose 2-1 to Trinidad and Tobago, you don't deserve to go to the World Cup. And as great of a history and as much money is invested in U.S. soccer and men's soccer in particular, this is an embarrassment of the highest order.
Well, I'll tell you what, they looked like they didn't want to be out on the pitch. It was really just of course, an embarrassment, of course that. But as far as more than anything, it's just the guys didn't have that urgency. How do you not have that urgency? You couldn't even get a draw.
Exactly.
A draw.
Yeah.
Come on. You have to. This is a wake-up call. This is probably, honestly, as bad as this is, folks, this might be one of the best things that could have happened for U.S. soccer, because this is a wake-up call.
It's a good point.
Wake-up call for the U.S. Soccer Federation and to America to wake up and look for the best players in this that this country has to offer. Look for the best athletes. All right? Know what you need to do in order to be elite. There is no excuse for being elite. You know, as far as the population is concerned, Trinidad and Tobago, same size as San Diego.
You got to be kidding me.
So they're putting out their best guys. U.S. soccer, what's going on? Help out Christian Pulisic. Help out these guys, all right? And they need to wake up. Yeah. Everyone. I said wake up like 8 times already. They just need to do it.
What a
all right?
joke.
Revamp and refresh, because this is what it takes.
The MLB postseason, oh my goodness. What an exciting postseason of baseball we've had. Let's, real quick, the Indians were up 2-0 and lost to the Yankees.
Oh my God.
What a great comeback by the Yankees.
We both had the Indians in the World Series.
And the Yankees won game 3, hell of a game pitched by Tanaka. 7-3, Severino wins game 4, and then the Yankees come in and win game 5. What an unbelievable performance by the Yankees. Now let's segues to the ALCS. And the Yankees and the Astros. Pitching kills, baby. Keuchel and Verlander. Verlander, 9 innings. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
That's the Justin Verlander of old of the Detroit Tigers. And I know good and well if that's like Eliav. Good to see Justin Verlander go out there. Go get that ring, Justin.
This time, the Yankees will not come back from the 0-2 hole.
No.
The Houston Astros are another level, and they are going to the World Series.
Yes. The Dodgers are up 2-0. And your man Justin Turner last night smacking a game-winning home run.
God.
And
what a walk-off.
Up 2-0, man. The Dodgers are just, every year it's like, oh, this is the year. And then somehow something gets in their way. But they beat the Cubs 5-2. They beat the Cubs 4-1 in games 1 and 2, respectively. And the series shift to Chicago.
And his home run, his walk-off home run, came on the day 29th anniversary of Kirk Gibson's home run in 1988 World Series Game 1. I mean, if that's not storybook, what is?
I don't know, man. Unbelievable. Good to see the Dodgers. I'm really happy for the Dodgers and their fan base to see this. Really, I'm contrary to what you and Braden Bell and all those people out there think. I'm actually very happy for the Dodger fan base. You guys deserve this. Keep winning that game and go get that ring. So when the series shifting back to Chicago, I got the Cubs winning at least one of these games.
I'd have that too. Yeah. I have the Dodgers splitting it.
I was gonna say, what's the final series for you? Like, what's the mark for the Dodgers to win this series for you?
Well, I had it before the series. I had it Dodgers in 6. It looks like it might be Dodgers in 5.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers either 5 or 6, but I got to go with the Dodgers. I think Cubs are gonna win 2 more games, but I got the Dodgers winning in 6.
Yeah, it'll be definitely interesting, because we'll see where that experience comes in for the Cubs, and where if they can really pick up on themselves now down 2-0. I mean, I'm excited. I'm very excited for the rest of this.
And you should be. The Dodgers, we've been talking about this every year. Dodger fans, this, that, and the other, but this is the year for the Dodgers, and I think they're going to do it.
Eliav may be tough at times. What are you doing? Stop wasting time. But he does have a soft side too. Come on. Get ready for Eliav's soft spot of the week.
So beautiful.
I love
that's so
smooth
beautiful.
jazz.
I'm in a good mood today.
All right, my soft spot of the week, kind of a double. I'm gonna double up on this one. First, Torian Graham signed and quickly released by the Jazz, but nevertheless, it was so nice to see him getting signed. Good for him.
Yes.
The guy's been through a lot, and I don't know. He was always fun to cover last year, and so positives and my own soft spot. But my soft spot officially is going to be the LA Rams. I retweeted it, by the way. Go check it out on my social media at Eliav Gabay. That's a plug. There was a kid, it must have been like, 6 years old, that he is in Jacksonville and he loves Todd Gurley. And
Oh, this was beautiful.
it was so cute. His family surprised him with tickets to the Jacksonville versus Rams game to see Todd Gurley, and he started crying from happiness. I mean, so adorable. Go check out Todd Gurley. Also quote tweeted it. He said, "Tears of joy." I mean, you just gotta love it when you see so much joy brought to a kid when it comes to sports. So that's my soft spot of the week.
So beautiful. That right there is the personification of why sports is so beautiful. You have this little kid, innocent little kid, getting this beautiful moment, going to see his favorite player. I remember when I was a little kid, when I got to go see my favorite players, when I got to go see the Red Wings for the first time in Detroit, I bawled my eyes out. That's just beautiful stuff. Real quick before Harley's Hot Topics and social media, the Arizona Coyotes
Hide your kids. Hide the kids.
The Arizona Coyotes are 0-4-1 to start the year. All in all, just a terrible year to start the year. Let me say this. The Arizona Coyotes, they're a disaster. Straight up a disaster. Finally, over the offseason, they got an owner, Andrew Barroway, 51%. Yeah, he's a little quirky, but I don't care. A new president, a new CEO, two-time Stanley Cup champion in Rick Tocchet, Hjalmarsson, Stepan, Ranta. Continuous bad luck follows this franchise's way. All started with Jacob Chikrin getting injured in the offseason. Whatever he was doing, I don't know. The stinking ping pong balls in 2015 when they could have gotten Jack Eichel or Connor McDavid, who Jack Eichel just signed an $80 million contract, for goodness sake. And Connor McDavid is the #1 player in the league right now. You could have gotten those two, and instead you got your hands on Dylan Strome. Goodness gracious, one player over the limit in plus-minus, which is Luke Shen. 25th in goals scored, second most allowed goals in 22, first in goals allowed per game with 4, 13th on the power play. Okay, not bad. 25th on the penalty kill. What a disgrace. That's why you brought in Hjalmarsson to begin with. And last but not least, to wrap it up, dead last in faceoff percentage. Boy, they could use Boyd Gordon right now. Step up, damn it, or you're going to lose your fan base. End of discussion.
And the only one of the bright spots for this team is not going to play their next game. Ranta,
yeah, exactly.
Goaltending. I mean, he's been solid.
And we saw what kind of impact he had against Vegas on opening night.
But you can only do so much by yourself.
You can't. Ranta can't do everything by himself. What? Oh man, what? Just a terrible, terrible outlook for this franchise. Just brutal. Just brutal.
Everything trending on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and more. Get ready for Harley's Hot Topics and social media. All right, so we're going to kick it off real quick with Sparky the Sun Devil.
Hey.
Yeah, that's good.
Someone let me crowd surf again. That was
awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, right? So, of course, Sparky was in the crowd of students who rushed the field, and he was crowd surfing, all that good stuff. Amon Shumpert posted a picture with his daughter.
Oh, I saw
Very
this. So
cute
cute.
on
That's
Twitter,
awesome.
and says, "This father stuff will turn you soft, man."
That was another soft spot of the week option right there.
Yeah, really soft, LOL. And then Pandora, I don't know if you guys saw this, but LeBron and D-Wade did an interview with Rachel Nichols, who's just like all over the place. And D-Wade basically called LeBron cheap, and LeBron said it was pretty much true, and that he still has Pandora with the like commercials. So
Hey, me too, LeBron. Me too.
Yeah,
so Pandora tweeted at him and said, "Hey, King James, how about we hook you up with a premium account so you can ditch the commercials?"
Oh, wow. Come on.
Can I get one, Pandora?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on,
At
Pandora.
Pandora,
That
what's
was the
good?
#1 reply to that tweet. And then we have the bulk of the social media this
man.
week came from Joel Embiid and Hassan
Great.
Whiteside.
Okay, I'm going to lean back. I'm going to wait. Go ahead.
So Hassan was basically saying that the media wouldn't show that he held Joel Embiid to 107 shooting or whatever after he walked off the court. And Joel Embiid quoted Hassan's tweet and said, "Dude, they had to take your behind out or you would have fouled out in 5 minutes. And we're talking about preseason, not regular season." Hashtag softy. And then he tweeted again and said, "Keep coming about your stats and not your team success. Your plus minus was," again, another word for behind.
Right.
At Young Hassan Whiteside, or at Young Whiteside, hashtag softy. And then Joel Embiid tweets, "My bad, y'all. I thought I was using my burner account." And at some point during this, Hassan Whiteside quoted a tweet and said, Joel Embiid, 31 games in 3 years. Hopefully I get to see you during the regular season. And then, not only was this on Twitter, Joel Embiid took to Instagram
Oh, my goodness.
with a picture of himself and says, "Great way to end preseason with the win. It's about to get real now. Thanks for all the love in Kansas. My location is extremely," another friendly word for behind. And the location is Whiteside. So it's basically just mad beef between these two
my
guys.
gosh.
Oh my goodness.
You gotta love it.
If you don't follow Joel Embiid on Twitter or social media for that matter, you need to go do it right now.
Right now.
The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay here on Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. What a show.
Gotta love it.
The NBA is back. Thank you, Troy Tauscher. Thank you, Hartley. You're out. Eliav, great job today, brother. Contrary to how I sounded about 5 minutes ago, we are way too blessed to be stressed. God is good. Go out there and make a difference today. Go watch the NBA tomorrow. Till then, Eliav Gabay and I are out. See ya.
Now I'm saying thank you because they tell me the bomb explosive. For my